Part 7. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 61. These tank killers, the one leading the team has reached the level of 3-star elite soldiers, and the two behind them are also 1-star veterans. It seems that this is not the first time that they have attacked the coalition's minecarts and tanks. They can be hidden under the barrel. There are many wrecks of coalition tanks. After noticing them, Wang Ling hurriedly checked other parts of the electronic map in detail and found no other arms. Then he smiled, cruelly and greedily. After regaining his composure, Wang Ling quickly put the can aside, wiped his mouth, and shouted, "Don't eat it yet, 5 tank killers are coming." Tank killer. Upon hearing this name, many people in the Eagle squad were startled. Wang Ling didn't care, and was still shouting, "The situation in the base has just eased, we must not let them attack the minecarts again. Rhino tanks, anti-aircraft crawlers, you hide away." The other infantry members of the Eagle team, 3 as a group, stop the first 4 tank killers and hold them back with all your strength. Others, join me in encircling the 5th tank killer with all your strength. Be careful to dodge and don't get run over by them. Get ready for action. Regarding these 5 tank killers, Wang Ling was full of confidence and arranged all the tactics in one breath. However, the rest of the Eagle squad began to murmur, "Captain, those are tank killers. How can we defeat them? How about letting the Rhino tanks come?" Wang Ling stared back and reprimanded, "Why go to the battlefield if you are afraid of death? If I say yes, you can do it. Stop talking nonsense and execute the order." Yes. In yesterday's raid, Wang Ling had gained a real status and image in the Eagle squad. Now no one dared to resist. After saying yes, he and Wang Ling hid at the edge of the hills, waiting for the tank killer. Comes. Although the Red Alert world is gamified, it is still somewhat different from the game. For example, this battlefield, or this map, is much larger than in the game, and traveling there is quite time-consuming. Tank killers do not move very fast, but they are tanks after all. The rolling speed of their tracks is always faster than human legs. After waiting for more than half an hour, the Eagle team finally saw the leader at the end of their sight. A tank killer. Seeing that it was a 3-star elite level, the 3 conscripts responsible for intercepting were a little frightened. As soon as they got out, they revealed a bitter look. Wang Ling didn't want them to lose control, so he confessed directly, although their barrels are big, they are used to hit tanks. The shells will hit the infantry and buildings just like hollow bullets, and they will do very little damage to you. Yes. Stop hesitating. If you hesitate any longer, the minecart that was finally built will be exploded again. When he said this, the 3 soldiers also gritted their teeth and rushed forward together. The 3 Babisha submachine guns started shooting at the 3-star tank killer. Interrupted during its march, this tank killer got into trouble just like the infantry vehicle last night, and fired its shells at the first conscript who fired at it. The shells of Samsung's tanks are all explosive, and double the number will be fired in a row. But in the end, as Wang Ling said, the tank killer's shells exploded on the conscripts, just like hollow bullets, although they were also it loses blood, but the amount is very small. 3 people are enough to hold it back. Realizing the situation, the 3 conscripts finally regained their energy. Regardless of avoiding the shells, they fired bullets with all their strength. Just as they were engaging in a fierce exchange of fire, the second 1-star tank killer finally arrived, but before it could approach the battle circle of the first tank, 3 conscripts from the second group had already stepped forward to stop it. If a 1-star tank killer hits infantry, the damage will be even more pitiful. Immediately afterwards, the 3rd and 4th tank killers were intercepted one after another, and then the 5th tank finally arrived. Wang Ling and nearly 20 other conscripts had long been tired of waiting. After seeing this, without saying a word, they all rushed forward. Nearly 20 Babisha submachine guns began to focus fire on the last tank killer. In Red Alert, the firepower of conscripts is indeed not very good, but there is also a saying that changes in quantity lead to qualitative changes. With so many conscripts concentrating fire, few tanks can withstand it. Under the crazy shooting of nearly 20 fire snakes, the tank killer's health bar rapidly decreased at a speed visible to the naked eye, and not long after, it exploded with a boom. As an infantryman, he gained a lot of experience by destroying tank killers. As a result, Sundahu was directly promoted to a 3-star elite soldier based on this. However, they could not afford to congratulate them now. Several other tank killers were still active. Wang Ling and the others immediately moved the battlefield and eliminated the second tank killer at a faster speed. Another soldier directly promoted to 3 stars. Subsequently, the third and fourth tank killers were also destroyed one after another, leaving only the last 3-star tank killer. Although the tank killer's damage against infantry is really unsightly, the attack frequency of this 3-star tank killer is too high after all. Cumulatively, the targeted conscript has been injured, and his health bar is half empty. On the other hand, the tank killer's attack frequency is too high. The tank killer only lost less than a quarter of his health. The 3 of them didn't need to worry about the rest. They eliminated the other 4 tank killers. The large army had already arrived at this time, and more than 30 mobilization soldiers began the final concentrated fire extermination. There were more than 30 submachine guns, and the sound of click-click could not be heard. The scene was particularly lively. Facing this formation, the last tank killer did panic for a while, but when it was knocked out of half of its health, it finally got smart and ran over Wang Ling in the crowd. Wang Ling was startled and shouted quickly, "Get away, get away." After hearing this, the other mobilized soldiers quickly moved away from the area. Wang Ling also jumped away, allowing the tank killer to miss, but it wasn't over yet. The tank killer seemed to have its sights on Wang Ling. After failing once, it turned around and continued to run over Wang Ling. At this time, Wang Ling also calmed down, laughed sinisterly, jumped away, and shouted, "Cease fire, stay away, leave this guy to me." Upon hearing this, the others hesitated for a moment, then finally released the trigger and moved a certain distance away. Now, only Wang Ling and the 3-star tank killer were left in the battle circle. As a result, they staged a chase scene in front of the entire Eagle squad. The tank killer simply stopped firing and focused on chasing Wang Ling, but Wang Ling was like a bullfight, jumping away quickly every time and filling in the gun when the tank killer turned around. Although the amount of health that can be destroyed each time is not much, it is difficult to resist it so many times. The tank killer itself is already out of health, and he has been hit by Wang Ling more than 10 times in a row. Finally, he can't resist it, and boom, the whole thing exploded with one sound. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 62. At this point, all 5 tank killers have been destroyed. These tank killers did not move for a whole night. It must be that their past achievements were so brilliant that they forgot about it. But today they happened to encounter Wang Ling, who was well aware of their weaknesses, and ended up like this. It was really sad and deplorable. After killing 5 tank killers, although some in the Eagle squad were injured, no one died, and there were 4 more 3-star elite soldiers. The emergence of this record and result made the entire Eagle team excited and cheered. Wang Ling also smiled, but before he could say anything, he suddenly became stunned again. This time, it was not that he discovered another enemy attack, but in his conscious mind, he noticed that the 3-star logo above his head had 2 more lines, becoming a 5-star level. With the appearance of the 5-star logo, Wang Ling felt dazed again, as if he had received the baptism of military experience again. The comprehensive quality that had exceeded the standard was actually improving again, and even the firearms he carried with him were improving. It has been strengthened, with more firepower and a longer range. Although this feeling was refreshing, Wang Ling was stunned. He was stunned for a while, and then he shouted in his head, "Uncle, hey, what's going on? Aren't the highest-ranking Red Police soldiers the 3-star elite soldiers? Why did a 5-star pop up here?" Uncle Hay immediately replied, "Indeed, the highest level in the game is 3-star, but that is for other people, you are an exception. The 3-star level is too low, too easy to achieve, and not much challenging, so you have a series of higher the level can be impacted. For example, your current 5 stars belong to the Special Forces level, the next 7 stars belong to the Ace, and the last 10 stars belong to the Soldier King level, which can also be called the Monster level." This. Listening to Uncle Hay's explanation, Wang Ling was a little incoherent. His heart was racing, but he felt a little confused. Uncle Hay continued to explain, "But don't worry, these levels are only for you personally. Others can't see it at all. They will only think that you are a 3-star elite soldier." That's it. Wang Ling began to gradually accept this reality, and when he came into contact with this new setting, he felt a little excited in his heart. Uncle Hay said and continued to add, "You have also felt it now. Every time you advance to a level, you will receive a gift from the system. Although it is not as obvious as the enhancer, it is still a kind of comprehensive enhancement. And, waiting for you after reaching level 10, you will also receive a surprise from the system." When Wang Ling heard this, he became interested. Surprise? What surprise? But on this key issue, Uncle Hay pretended to be mysterious again. "Surprise, it won't be called a surprise if you say it. If you want to know, then promote to the 10-star Soldier King as soon as possible, and then you will naturally have the answer." TCH, Wang Ling was a little impatient. This black uncle always missed the mark on key issues. "Captain, don't be stunned." "Haha, Captain, what a beautiful arrangement. I thought we were all going to be wiped out, but I didn't expect that the tank killers were wiped out, and they succeeded us, so happy, haha." The other members of the Eagle team were still excited, and they also brought Wang Ling in with them. Since Uncle Hay refused to explain clearly, Wang Ling didn't bother to ask further questions, so he simply joined the circle and had a good laugh. Before they could be happy for a long time, the voice of Second Lieutenant Zhao Pingwan came over the radio. "Wang Ling is amazing. With the current strength of the Eagle Squadron, they can actually wipe out all the tank killers." When Wang Ling heard the voice, he immediately became serious and answered sternly, "Brother Zhao, I have said before that although tank killers are the nemesis of tanks, they do almost no harm to infantry and buildings." "Tisk tisk, okay, I'm convinced this time. By the way, congratulations to you for being promoted to 4 elite soldiers in one breath," Zhao Pingwang said again. Listening to his tone, he seemed to be very happy, and it seemed that he was too. "I am so sick of this tank killer." Wang Ling was not polite to him. He smiled and said, "4 is still too few. There will be more in the future." "Haha, okay, I look forward to your future performance." Zhao Pingwang didn't hit anything like last time, he just said, "Okay, stop being so arrogant, this is not the time for you to celebrate, the task has not been completed yet, focus on defense." "Yes, sir." Wang Ling gave a military salute to the sky, and then the two sides interrupted communication. The tanks in the red alert world will disappear soon after being blown up. Now after this period of time, the wreckage of the 5 tank killers has disappeared, but the traces of the battlefield explosion have remained. Looking at these traces, the people in the Eagle squad were still a little excited. However, Wang Ling quickly calmed down and greeted the Eagle team back to their respective positions. Some were eating and some were on duty. As for the 2 armed mining vehicles, they are still mining in their own way, not caring about what just happened. The Rhino tanks and anti-aircraft crawlers were also called back by Wang Ling and continued to park at the corresponding locations, ready to respond to various emergencies. After finishing the rest of breakfast, Wang Ling looked at the Babisha submachine gun he carried with him and looked at the 5-star logo in his subconscious, feeling a little hopeful in his heart. However, this expectation did not last long, and Wang Ling soon frowned. Last night, the Eagle Squadron was able to quickly eliminate infantry vehicles and snipers, and today it eliminated all tank killers at a very small cost. Although this achievement is brilliant, it also has a certain degree of chance. If either of them appeared alone, Wang Ling would have a way to deal with it. But if they negotiated and attacked together, then with the current strength of the Eagle team, there would be no way to deal with it. Looking back at the other members of the Eagle team, after this battle, many of them were full of confidence. Wang Ling just wanted to open his mouth to warn them, but he temporarily closed his mouth. He is also afraid, but he is not afraid of his opponent, but of Uncle He. The two allied bases operate independently, and with the control of the computer system, the probability of the two types of arms encountering each other is very small. But if Wang Ling really expressed his concerns in this regard, he was very afraid that Uncle He would do something. Although this possibility is unlikely, after all, he was bullied by Uncle He at the beginning, so Wang Ling had to be on guard. In the following time, the Eagle team was still on duty step by step, and the armed mining vehicles were still working diligently on mining and transportation. After a whole day, they did not encounter any more enemy attacks. I wonder if they were affected by the battle during the day. I'm scared. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 63. In the current mine, after this series of mining, half of the original golden land has been hollowed out. The central mining machine alone cannot meet the mining speed of the mine car. It is estimated that if this momentum continues, the task will almost be completed tomorrow. Naturally, this is just a conservative estimate. In fact, after these two mine trucks have been transported continuously for so long, the fund supply situation of the coalition base has been greatly improved. As soon as Wang Ling estimated the time to complete the task, the mine slowly a third armed mining truck arrived. Seeing this car, Wang Ling smiled. It seemed that they would complete the task earlier. This night, the Eagle squad was still working in 3 shifts, always on guard against possible enemies. Wang Ling did not return to the real world, so he simply slept with the members of the Eagle squad and took turns guarding together. After the battle during the day, both allied bases seemed very low-key and never sent troops to attack. This night, it was still peaceful. During the 3rd shift, Wang Ling woke up, stretched, and subconsciously looked in the direction of the mine, only to find that the mine had basically been hollowed out, leaving only the central mining machine, which was then thrown out. Just scattered ores. With the guard at this point, the mission of the Eagle team can be said to have been completed. However, Wang Ling didn't like traveling at night, so he still followed the original rules and replaced the members of the previous shift and scheduled the return time in the morning. During the period of duty, nothing happened. Soon the sky became clear, and a new day of red alert life began. While Team Eagle was having breakfast, Zhao Pingguang's voice finally came over the radio. Wang Ling, congratulations, the mission was successfully completed. You can return to the base and wait for the next mission. I know, Brother Zhao. This time, Wang Ling didn't say much on the radio. After finishing breakfast, the Eagle team embarked on the return journey. When he came, Wang Ling got directly into the anti-aircraft crawler vehicle and asked the crawler vehicle to carry the members of the Eagle team several times. But when he returned, Wang Ling had no intention of doing so. Everyone was walking, even the Rhino tanks and anti-aircraft crawlers. The car didn't move too fast. After walking for half an hour, Sundae finally couldn't help but ask, "Captain, we have a tracked vehicle, why don't we get on the tracked vehicle and instead walk by ourselves?" Wang Ling glared at him, "It's enough to be lazy once. You can't go on the road without a tracked vehicle? Last time, it was because you had to conserve your strength to guard the mine. This time we have no mission, so we can just go back to the base. Now, walking can be regarded as exercise." Sundahua was speechless for Wang Ling's fallacy. At the speed at which the Eagle team was traveling, it would take about 2 hours to reach the base. However, the premise is that no emergencies occur. I don't know if the Eagle team is lucky or bad, but they just caught up. The Eagle team was on their way here. Wang Ling accidentally glanced at the electronic map in his subconscious, and suddenly found many blue light spots outside the two Allied bases. Looking closer, it turned out that both sides were gathering troops. One of these two Allied bases gathered nearly 20 Allied soldiers, including 2 engineers, and 5 rocket pilots in the air. The other is a multipurpose infantry vehicle, plus 5 Grizzly tanks. After the assembly was completed, the troops from both sides began to send troops towards the coalition base. Seeing this scene, Wang Ling was happy, the scorers are here again, and there are a large number of them this time. Everyone in the Eagle squadron, pay attention, there are enemies approaching. What enemy? Where? When Team Eagle heard this, some people seemed a little flustered, but some people became as excited as Wang Ling. Wang Ling compared the map and video, explained all the enemy's incoming troops, and then made arrangements. The first one to arrive at our place will be the multifunctional infantry vehicle. This will be left to the Rhino tank. Fight as soon as possible. Blast it. Then there are the rocket pilots, hand them over to the anti-aircraft crawlers, but don't be greedy, you may not be able to pick off 5 of them, only shoot 2 of them, return the other 3 to the base, and hand them over to the anti-aircraft guns. Having had 2 commanding experiences in succession, Wang Ling was now somewhat proficient in arranging. He quickly arranged a response plan for the incoming troops from the 2 forces, and then the entire Eagle squadron entered a state of combat readiness and hid in the behind the bunker await the enemy's approach. Like the anti-aircraft tracked vehicles, the Allied multifunctional infantry vehicles were also very fast. Not long after Wang Ling and the others waited, the vanguard had already entered their line of sight. At this time, the Rhino tank that had been waiting for a long time rushed forward and hit the infantry vehicle with a single shot, knocking out part of its health. Under attack, this multifunctional infantry vehicle refused to admit defeat. It stopped, fired anti-aircraft shells, and started fighting with the Rhino tank. The unleveled anti-aircraft infantry vehicle is not very optimistic about the damage of the tank type. In addition, its own armor and health are too low, and it is very fragile. As a result, it cannot even have a quarter of the health of the Rhino tank. Kill it and you will be blasted by a Rhino tank. Behind the infantry vehicle, the rocket pilots finally arrived. This type of soldier is a unique branch of the Allied forces. They wear a flight suit and can fight enemies in the air. It is said that the weapons of the rocket pilots are 20mm assault rifles, but Wang Ling always felt that they were armed with artillery. The individual attack power of this rocket pilot is actually not too high, and it can only bully those units that do not have air defense capabilities. However, if there are too many of them, quantitative changes will lead to qualitative changes, and that will be terrifying. The anti-aircraft crawler finally came in handy at this time, hiding in the corner and firing shells at the rocket pilots. Wang Ling gave it the task of provoking 2 of the rocket pilots, but these pilots flew too concentratedly, and the tracked vehicle's shells were splashing. As a result, the 3 rocket pilots were disturbed at the same time with 1 shot. The target was temporarily changed and a fight started with the tracked vehicle. In the next period of time, the sound of cannons and chirps of artillery could be heard endlessly. The anti-aircraft crawler vehicle was squishy, but the rocket pilots were not much stronger, with lower armor and health. As a result, all three pilots were shot down, and only about one-third of the crawler vehicle's health was knocked out. After completing this task, the anti-aircraft crawler vehicle and the Rhino tank left the area and hid in a corner. They waited for the 5 Grizzly tanks to pass by before continuing to move forward, encountering the Allied soldiers, and then it refused to fire even a single shot, and simply collided and crushed it. If they launch an artillery attack, the two of them are really no match for this group of soldiers, but the vehicle itself has advantages and can directly crush ordinary soldiers. In this round of crushing, half of the Allied soldiers were directly crushed to death. In the system transfer station, Uncle Hay looked at this scene, his eyes widened. Can it still be like this? Wang Ling, you really know how to play. Such a way to get points is too easy. Should I set the points of ordinary infantry? Is it too high? Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 64. Wang Ling doesn't care about Uncle Hay's thoughts at all now. He even wants to improve his infantry score. The Rhino tank and the anti-aircraft crawler vehicle were even more careless. After one collision and crushing, the vehicle immediately turned around without stopping and started crushing them for the second time, followed by the third time. As for the group of ordinary soldiers, they didn't know how to dodge under the control of the computer program, and they couldn't fire at all during the march. As a result, they were all crushed to death by the two tanks without firing a single shot. In this process, the anti-aircraft tracked vehicle relied on its superior mobility to seize the opportunity, and the vast majority of Allied soldiers were killed by it. The soldiers who were run over to death were also able to calculate their experience. As a result, after the battle, the Rhino tank was successfully promoted to a 1-star veteran, and the anti-aircraft crawler was directly promoted to a 3-star elite soldier. Anti-aircraft crawlers after 3 stars can also fire 2 shells at a time, and the attack frequency will be higher. If it is the current anti-aircraft crawler, it will not take much effort to fight against the 5 rocket pilots just now. According to Wang Ling's prior arrangement, after these Allied soldiers were dealt with, in order to prevent reinforcements from appearing, the 2 tanks did not dare to stay long and immediately returned along the original route. At this time, Wang Ling and the others were already at war. Just like when fighting tank killers, the Eagle squad was still composed of 3 soldiers to intercept a Grizzly tank, while Wang Ling alone led all the remaining mobilization soldiers to focus fire to kill the last tank. This Grizzly tank corresponds to the Allied Rhino tank and is the Allied main battle tank. However, comparing the two, the Grizzly tank is no match for the Rhino tank in terms of attack power, armor, and life, but it is superior in terms of movement speed. Different from the tank killer, this Grizzly tank is also lethal to infantry. When there is no level, the lethality is not so obvious, but once it reaches the 3-star elite level, it has the power to kill infantry almost instantly. Wang Ling dares to fight them now, mainly because he sees that all these tanks have no level, and with the strength of the Eagle team, it is enough to swallow them. In fact, it was exactly what Wang Ling thought. While the other 4 Grizzly tanks were being delayed, the remaining nearly 20 members of the Eagle team all fired like crazy. The Grizzly tank that was targeted was not at all, it couldn't hold on for long, and it exploded with a boom. During this process, Wang Ling specifically tested the feel and power of the firearm in his hand. After he was promoted to the 5-star Special Forces, the firearm was also strengthened. During the test, Wang Ling found that the burst speed and power of the Bosch submachine gun were enhanced. It's a lot lighter, but the recoil has been reduced a lot, making it much easier to use than before. Taking advantage of this fresh energy, after destroying the first Grizzly tank, the group of them immediately moved to fight the second one, and after destroying it, the third and fourth tanks. When it was the turn of the last Grizzly tank, it happened that the anti-aircraft crawler vehicle and the Rhino tank also arrived one after another. Wang Ling set aside the crawler vehicle alone and let the Rhino tank join the battle circle. As a result, the last Grizzly tank, the tank only lasted a few breaths before being completely destroyed. In this encounter, through mental calculations and unintentional calculations, the Eagle squad once again won a comprehensive victory. Looking back at the battle situation, after all, we were fighting against the Grizzly tank. This time, the members of the Eagle squad finally suffered casualties. A total of 2 people died, 1 was seriously injured, and 4 were slightly injured. However, this battle allowed the Eagle squad to gain 3 more elite soldiers, and the remaining 2 were given to Wang Ling to gain experience, otherwise the number would have been even greater. The Rhino tank has reached the level of a 1-star veteran, and the tracked vehicle has reached the level of a 3-star elite soldier. In this battle, the Eagle squad fought very well. I originally thought that the mission was completed and I would return with peace of mind, but suddenly another big victory was won midway. The Eagle team inevitably became excited again, cheering and jumping for joy. Coalition Base Command Post. Second Lieutenant Zhao Mingwang was standing in front of the electronic map, zooming in on the video to watch the battle of the Eagle squadron. After seeing the results, he couldn't help but burst out laughing. My order to Wang Ling is to let him return to the base and wait for the next mission. But he was lucky enough to disobey orders midway and start a fight with the team that came to attack the base. The most incredible thing is that with the strength of the Eagle team, they actually won. Next to him, stood a figure who looked like a big man from the Maoist state, with the rank of colonel on his shoulder. This was the supreme commander of this base, Colonel Lovsky. Hearing Zhao Pingguang's sigh, Colonel Lovsky couldn't help but look at Wang Ling in the video. After a while, he nodded and said, "This mobilization soldier is very strange. I have also paid attention to his mission process this time. He quickly responded to the attacks by snipers and infantry vehicles, deployed all his troops in advance to destroy all the tank killers, and now intercepts and kills the Allied offensive troops at a very small cost. The outstanding performance is somewhat unusual." Zhao Pingguang smiled and said, "That's not all. When the Eagle squad was dispatched to perform this mission, the Eagle squad was still very inconspicuous. It was only led by 2 1-star veterans. At most, there were more Rhino tanks and anti-aircraft crawlers. But now the mission at the end, after the encounter, the Eagle squad already has so many elite soldiers, and it suddenly distances itself from other teams." Colonel Lovsky nodded and continued, "I have checked his deployments, and they are all very targeted. He seems to be very aware of the weaknesses of the Allied forces, and he can calmly deal with them every time and save the day. I am very strange, how did he know this? Could it be?" King Xiaoping interrupted temporarily and replied, "Sir, are you talking about a spy?" "No. Which spy can do what he did, and devour all the Allied troops caught by him? Moreover, I had doubted his identity before, and even used a police dog to test him, but the dog did not react at all. I don't know where he learned these experiences and knowledge." "Is that so?" Lovsky was silent for a moment, but his tense face suddenly showed a smile. "If he is not a spy, then this soldier is a treasure to us. Ling Fei is Guy, you actually gave me such a big gift." "Xiao Zhao. Why?" "As a courtesy, give Ling Fei a commendation order. If he is no longer in the barracks, he can come to my command at any time and he will be well treated." "Yes." After Zhao Pingguang responded, he suddenly asked, "Sir, why is it for Captain Ling Fei? Shouldn't this commendation order be given to Wang Ling?" Lovsky said with a smile, "His current qualifications cannot bear the commendation order, and he still needs to continue to hone. After they come back, remember not to make any noise, so as to save them from raising their tails." Okay. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 65. Naturally, Wang Ling didn't know about the discussion between Colonel Lovsky and Second Lieutenant Zhao Pingguang. Now the Eagle team was still happy because of their victory. Wang Ling has experienced too many such encounters in the game. After experiencing the fresh energy in the simulated battlefield of Red Alert World, he quickly calmed down and suppressed others. Okay, enough is enough and continue on your way. Everyone else admires Wang Ling from the bottom of their hearts. How dare they disobey him? They all responded happily, and then the Eagle team reorganized and continued on their way back. During the rest of the journey, the Eagle team did not encounter any unexpected situations, and they successfully returned to the base after more than an hour. Thanks to the work of those armed mining vehicles, the financial situation of the base has finally been improved, and all the buildings that originally had remaining health have been repaired during this period. Not only that, there are obviously more conscripts and rhino tanks in the base. From time to time, a fully loaded armed mining truck will arrive, sending the minerals to the refinery and then continuing to mine. When Wang Ling first came to this base, he felt that it was devastated, as if it would collapse after a few more enemy attacks. But now, with the extra funds, this base is finally full of vitality again. Wang Ling, you are back. Just as the Eagle Squadron was observing the changes in the base, Second Lieutenant Zhao Pingwang appeared not far away and greeted Wang Ling with a smile. Brother Zhao, fortunately you have fulfilled your mission. The Eagle Squadron has successfully completed its mission and returned safely. Wang Ling felt a little happy now, but he still gave a decent military salute. But King Xiaoming pretended to be angry, glared at Wang Ling and reprimanded, completed the mission successfully. Returned safely? Yes, not only did you complete it, you also exceeded the quota. My order to you is to return to the base and stand by, but what about you? We even got into a fight with the enemy on the way. Do you know what the crime is for disobeying orders on the battlefield? This Wang Ling was stunned by what he said on the spot, and other members of the Eagle team were also shocked. But Zhao Mingwang couldn't pretend anymore and couldn't help laughing. He patted Wang Ling's arm. Don't be so nervous. It's just a joke. I'm not that harsh here. As long as your decision is correct, yes, the results are brilliant enough, these problems are not big. Call. Team Eagle breathed a sigh of relief, and then looked at King Xiaoping with helpless eyes. When did this second lieutenant become so fond of joking? After chatting for a while, Zhao Pingwang said, it's been a hard journey all the way. You can take the Eagle squad back to the station to rest and come to the command post later. Why are you going to the command post? Wang Ling asked subconsciously. But King Xiaoping was too lazy to say more. Why are you asking so many questions? Just go if you are told. You will know after you go. All right. After bidding farewell to King Xiaoping, Wang Ling returned to the station with the members of the Eagle squad. A place like the command post was the core of the entire base. Wang Ling didn't dare to waste time going to a place like that. After settling down the Eagle team, he followed the direction of the command post. When Wang Ling arrived at the command post, there were some mobilization soldiers and engineers busy here, and Zhao Pingwang was now standing next to a big man from the Mao Kingdom, watching the simulated base map together. Seeing this situation, Wang Ling recognized the man as Colonel Lovsky at a glance, and felt a little nervous. After walking into the main door, he quickly gave a military salute. Sir. Colonel Lovsky and Second Lieutenant Zhao Pingwang turned back to look at Wang Ling almost simultaneously, but they ignored him. Instead, they turned their heads and continued to look at the map. Wang Ling was a little embarrassed. He didn't know what they meant. He was about to ask, but another mobilization soldier walked in not far away and handed Zhao Pingwang something. After Zhao Mingwang took it, he turned around and walked towards Wang Ling, and started to pick at his shoulder in front of Wang Ling. Wang Ling had already had a similar experience in the scene in the Red Alert world, and now that he had experienced it again, Wang Ling couldn't help but think about it. Could this be this? Zhao Mingwang moved very quickly, and had already finished tinkering while Wang Ling was thinking about it. Wang Ling turned his head and looked over his shoulder, and was immediately surprised. "Corporal. Sir, this isn't it? Just like what Captain Ling Fei did last time." Second Lieutenant Zhao Ping Wang had just personally replaced him with the rank epaulets of a corporal. Although he had long guessed that he might be promoted to military rank, it was one thing to think about it and another to see it with his own eyes. Although he knew that the whole world was virtual, Wang Ling couldn't help but feel excited. But King Xiaoping glared at him and interrupted temporarily. "Why, a private is promoted to the rank of corporal. To put it bluntly, he is just a non-commissioned officer. Are you still going to let us give you a separate award ceremony?" "No, sir, I just walked out of the barracks not long ago. Now that I have been promoted to corporal, am I still a little underqualified?" Wang Ling'an resisted the excitement in his heart and became pretentious when he spoke. This time the person who answered was replaced by Colonel Lovsky. "The qualifications are indeed not enough, but the military exploits are enough to take on the responsibility." While speaking, Colonel Lovsky finally looked away from the map, walked towards Wang Ling step by step, stood in front of him and said, "This time, the Eagle team successfully protected the mine and the armed mining vehicles, and established a solid foundation for the base. The source of funding provides a strong guarantee. The base can continue to develop, and your Eagle team is indispensable." Colonel Lovsky had a very serious expression when he spoke. Wang Ling dared to fight with Prince Zhao, but in front of Lovsky, he seemed a little restrained. He quickly responded with a military salute. "Yes, sir." Lovsky ignored him and instead walked back to the map. After watching it for a while, he asked again, "I see that when you were performing the mission, your arrangements were not like those who just entered the battlefield. The new recruits seem to know the advantages and disadvantages of our enemies and our own troops very well. Why is this?" It was this kind of question again. Wang Ling didn't know how to answer it at all. If he made up a story on the fly, there would always be more or less loopholes, which would be troublesome, so he simply shut up and didn't answer. Colonel Lovsky looked back at him and did not embarrass him. "Come on, everyone has their own secrets. If you don't want to tell them, I won't force you." "Huh," Wang Ling breathed a sigh of relief. So far, these conversations and exchanges have been relatively normal, but then, Lovsky asked a very strange question. "What do you think is still missing after the base has developed so far?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 66. Why is this question weird? The commander of a coalition base, a dignified colonel, took the initiative to ask a corporal about the development of the base. I'm afraid not many people would believe it. Wang Ling was stunned for a while, but after being stunned for a moment, he answered without thinking, "Lack of money." Puff. Zhao Pingwang couldn't help but spit it out, and then said with a bit of laughter and tears, "Nonsense, do you need to say this? Which base would think that there is too much money? Don't talk about him." Even Colonel Lovsky's originally tense face couldn't help but twitch a few times before he said, "Apart from money." He continued to ask questions, but it seemed like he didn't have anything to say. Wang Ling realized this and stopped being polite. He slowly walked to the map and took a bird's eye view of the entire base. This base occupies a very large area, and there are many various defense facilities and power plants. However, Wang Ling scanned it, but never found a very important building, and then he made it clear, there are indeed some shortcomings. War Lab. Oh, Colonel Lovsky was a little surprised that Wang Ling could name the building. But Wang Ling took the initiative to explain before he could ask anything in detail. In addition to funds, the development and growth of a base is also inseparable from the support of science and technology. The combat laboratory is very important to the base. With this thing, the base can develop and produce more powerful tanks and cultivate its own troops. No, you really know, Colonel Lovsky did not speak, but Zhao Pingwang was a little surprised. To be honest, I am very curious about where you know this. Wang Ling smiled and said nothing. This kind of question now belonged to his absolute privacy. Colonel Lovsky did not ask any more questions, and nodded, with a rare smile on his face. Yes, now that all the buildings in the base have been repaired and the defense strength has been strengthened, it is time to build one of our own. It's a combat laboratory. In the Red Alert game, there are many criteria to judge whether a base is strong or not, such as funding, the number of defense buildings and troops, the number of 3-star elite soldiers, etc., but one of them is relatively fixed, and that is the combat laboratory. A powerful base must have a combat laboratory. Why is this coalition base always in a weak position against the enemy? Because there is already a combat laboratory in the Allied base. Whether it is a tank killer or a sniper, they are all arms that only became available after the construction of the combat laboratory. In addition, there are some other terrifying and difficult tanks that will also be destroyed. Research, development, and production have been carried out one after another. If the coalition forces have been unwilling to build a combat laboratory, the gap in strength between the two sides will only widen. Now, the coalition base seems to have realized this and wants to start building a combat laboratory. After answering this question, Wang Ling asked in a decent manner, "Sir, do you have any questions?" Colonel Lovsky glanced at him and ignored him, but Prince Xiaoping smiled. "Why, do you really think of yourself as a military advisor?" Wang Ling realized that he had made a mistake and quickly shut up. Fortunately, they were not offended. King Xiaoping then took out a hardcover box and handed it to Wang Ling. "You have nothing to do here. Go back. You should know how to arrange the things in the box." "Yes, sir," Wang Ling responded, took the box, and quickly exited the command post. After Wang Ling left, Colonel Lovsky couldn't help but laugh a few times. This soldier is quite interesting. Wang Ling didn't care what the senior colonel said about him now. He always felt too restricted in the command post. He only returned to normal after being away for a while, unnaturally shaking his arms and twisting his waist. Turning his head and looking at his epaulets, Wang Ling also sighed. Now, his military rank has caught up with his instructors. I wonder what the instructor's expression will be when he finds out. After thinking about it, Wang Ling suddenly realized that even though he entered the battlefield, he was still thinking about his comrades in the barracks and the instructor who was strict and caring to him. "I just don't know if I can go back to the barracks to see them again." "Forget it, why are you thinking so much? You will see it when they enter the battlefield." Wang Ling shook his head, put these thoughts to the back of his mind, and then opened the box and took a look. "It doesn't matter if you don't look at it, but when you look at it, you will be shocked. It turns out that all the contents in this box are military rank epaulets. Of these epaulets, one of them was a corporal like him, and the others were all privates. It seems that he is not the only one in the Eagle Squad who has been promoted this time." Although he knew that all this was virtual, Wang Ling felt a little happy when his subordinates were promoted to military ranks. Putting away these military rank epaulets with great care, Wang Ling rushed back to the Eagle Squadron's garrison without stopping and gathered the entire team together. The members of the Eagle team were almost familiar with Wang Ling now, and they knew that Wang Ling's temperament was not so limited. After gathering, they all became excited when they saw Wang Ling's epaulets. "Corporal. Captain, you are awesome. Captain, how long have you been here at the base? You performed one mission and went straight to the rank of corporal. Our Eagle Squad has become awesome too, haha, we are the captain of the corporal." Many team members sighed, but among them, Sun De, whose face seemed a little bitter. Originally, Wang Ling's position was his, but now there was a fierce man like Wang Ling. After one mission, he was directly promoted to corporal, which made him feel frustrated again. Wang Ling glanced at the Eagle team and quickly discovered Sun Dehu's anomaly, but he was not surprised. He laughed, pressed his hands and stopped them. Not only me, but also some of you have been promoted. All 3-star soldiers, come out. Upon hearing this, Team Eagle had expressions of surprise on their faces, while the 3-star soldiers walked out of the queue obediently and stood at the front. Only then did Wang Ling open the box containing the rank epaulets. Starting from one side, he put the rank of private on their shoulders one by one. Privates, first-class soldiers, and even non-commissioned officers and lieutenants are promoted to military ranks because the frequency is too high and the base number is too large. Usually there is no ceremony to award the rank if there are no events. However, Wang Ling still held a small-scale ceremony for them alone to celebrate the successful completion of the mission. And those soldiers who were wearing the epaulets with the rank of private, turned their heads and took a look at the epaulets, and all of them smiled. Behind them, many of the ordinary team members who had not been able to improve their ranks showed envy, but most of them were still happy. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 67. Wang Ling's method of wearing epaulets was still a bit unfamiliar, but after all, the number was not large. Soon he had finished wearing the epaulets of all the rank of superior soldiers, and then stood in front of the last one, Sun Dehu. When Sun Dehu saw Wang Ling, he blinked, as if he couldn't believe it. "Captain, am I there too?" Wang Ling smiled, "Why not?" As he spoke, Wang Ling started to remove Sun Dehu's rank of superior soldier and solemnly put on the rank of corporal. After putting it on, he patted Sun Dehu on the shoulder again. "Well, this epaulet still looks good." As for Sun Dehu, Wang Ling originally thought that he would giggle for a while like the others, but unexpectedly, after this guy tilted his head and glanced at the epaulets, he lowered his head and was silent for a while, and then he choked up. Wang Ling was puzzled. "You are a big man, why are you crying? Shouldn't you be happy when your military rank is promoted?" Sun Dehu did not speak. Instead, a newly promoted superior soldier next to him explained, "Captain, brother who is so happy. In our entire Eagle squad, brother who is the oldest. He has seen too much, and he is also very happy I've been through too much." The superior soldier did not continue talking about the rest, but Wang Ling already understood. Unlike Wang Ling, an outside player, Sun Dehu's promotion to this level was entirely due to his personal accumulation. During this process, he may have deeply experienced the cruelty of war and experienced too much sadness. Now that he has finally become a non-commissioned officer, those accumulated emotions finally burst out. Although Wang Ling had never had such an experience, he understood it now and did not rush to persuade Sun Dehu. He waited until his choking gradually subsided and then said, "If you keep crying, I will laugh at you, damn it. Old man, don't shed tears even if you bleed, this attitude is quite girly." Sun Dehu, who was still a little choked with sobs, couldn't help laughing again when he heard what Wang Ling said. He glared at Wang Ling and said nothing. But Wang Ling continued to talk. "Look at your achievements, where have you been now? You have just become a sergeant, and you are so excited. If you become a lieutenant or a colonel in the future, you are not allowed to cry on your ancestors' graves." "I got it, Captain." Sun Dehu finally stopped choking, gave a military salute, and restored his original expression. Not sure if it was an illusion, but Wang Ling always felt that there seemed to be something extra in Sun Dehu's eyes at this time. However, Wang Ling didn't bother to pay attention. After returning to his original position, he spoke, "First of all, congratulations to all the team members who have obtained new military ranks. Well done. However, this is just the beginning. There is still a long way to go. Don't be proud, work hard. As for the other team members who have not been promoted, don't be discouraged. There are still many opportunities in the future. I look forward to your performance in the future." "Okay, I won't say any more, let's disband and have a good rest. As the disbandment order was issued, the formation of the Eagle Squadron did disperse, but the people did not leave. Instead, they surrounded the comrades who had obtained new military ranks, vying to watch, and started laughing and joking, and some people even shouted he stroked those epaulets with an envious look. Wang Ling was too lazy to worry about what this group of activists wanted to do. After smiling, he went directly back to the camp to rest. All the beds in the camp were hard beds, but after sleeping on the hillside for 2 days in the wild, Wang Ling felt extremely comfortable now that he was lying on the hard bed. In the Red Alert game, the battle time of each round is not too long. If it is shorter, it is only a few minutes or 10 minutes. If it is longer, it will only be an hour or a few hours at best. No matter how long it is, you are really a genius. What can be done? However, in this Red Alert world, a war takes too long. It is not surprising that it can take a month or even months, or even longer. During the war, both the coalition and the Allied forces spent most of their time developing, defending, and recuperating. The actual continuous fighting was not too long. On this day, after the Allied offensive troops were annihilated by the Eagle Squadron, they seemed to have fallen into silence again, and there was no movement all day long. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the coalition base was also gradually developing. Some engineers independently opened up a large piece of open space and then began to build a combat laboratory. There are no units like engineers in the game. Every time they are built, they are purchased in the construction column and consume a certain amount of funds. When ready, they can be built on the open space. However, in the world of Red Alert, you cannot build a building out of thin air at once, so this is the setting of the Engineer Corps. This type of unit will not participate in combat, but is only responsible for building and maintaining base buildings. In addition to the combat laboratory, a Rhino tank and an anti-aircraft crawler vehicle will occasionally be driven out of the tank factory to strengthen the base defense. All the injured members of the Eagle team also received treatment, and after resting for a while, they began to patrol. On a battlefield where there is no fighting, time passes quickly, and it's almost night in the blink of an eye. After dinner and the final patrol, Wang Ling arranged for a few night shift members alone, then lay on the bed, closed his eyes and contacted Uncle He. After staying in the Red Alert world for 2 days, it was time for Wang Ling to return to reality and take a day's rest. In the interdimensional system transfer station, Uncle He saw Wang Ling returning and said hello with a smile, and then made statistics. This time in the Red Alert world, you and the Eagle team killed a total of 1 elite tank, 4 10 points, 2 1-star tanks, 60 points, 8 ordinary tanks, 160 points, 29 ordinary soldiers, 290 points. In addition to the 34 survival points accumulated in the past 2 days points, and the remaining 254 points before, now you have a total of 838 points left. Congratulations on a great harvest. Wang Ling didn't pay much attention to the points at first, but when he heard Uncle He's statistics, he was shocked by the final number. When I was in the barracks, I only relied on accumulating survival points. After working so hard for so long, I finally managed to redeem the basic enhancer by killing the black troops. But now, Wang Ling took the members of the Eagle Squad on a mission, which lasted only a few days, and actually gained hundreds of points. This comparison shocked Wang Ling. The battlefield was indeed a good place for him to increase his points. Before Wang Ling could say anything, Uncle He started to complain, "You boy, you are really an otaku. You know this game very well. You have a great advantage when arranging the enemy. The points were scored so quickly. I'm already regretting it now, because the enemy killing points I set for you were too high." Wang Ling smiled, "Uncle He, there is no regret medicine in the world. It has been set up and cannot be changed randomly. TCH, I haven't reached that rogue level yet, Uncle Hay was a little disdainful. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 68. Having gained so many points in one go, Wang Ling is in a really good mood now. In one mission, more than a dozen tanks and dozens of soldiers were annihilated, and even hundreds of points were earned. It seems that accumulating 10,000 points and unlocking the mid-level redemption is really not as difficult as imagined. After being excited for a while, Wang Ling said, "It's troublesome to remember the change after so many small changes. Uncle Hay, please convert the extra 38 points into cash." "It's still the same. Are you so short of money?" Uncle Hay muttered, but he still helped Wang Ling exchange cash honestly. Afterwards, Wang Ling didn't stay in the transit for long, and returned to the real world with a greeting. Now Wang Ling, traveling back and forth between the two worlds, can no longer distinguish between reality and virtuality. In other words, Wang Ling didn't want to make too clear a distinction at all. Compared to the monotonous real world, Wang Ling even expected more from the virtual Red Alert world. Naturally, Wang Ling was not lost because of this. Life in the real world was monotonous, but everything was still going on. The next day, as usual, Wang Ling went to the playground early in the morning and exhausted all his physical energy. He rested for a while before he could barely move. After getting up, he ate some breakfast and returned to the dormitory to sleep again. A sleepless night. After waking up again, Wang Ling looked at the tens of thousands of yuan in deposits in his bank card. He felt a little moved. After thinking about it for a long time, he finally ordered a new domestic smartphone online to replace the one that just exceeded 1,000 yuan in his hand. Senior machine, and then bought a few brand name clothes regardless of price, and finally bought a lot of snacks. On this day, Wang Ling spent at least 5,000 yuan in one go. This price may not be a big deal to some wealthy people in society, but for a student party like Wang Ling, it is a quite large amount. However, Wang Ling didn't feel too distressed. He still had 800 points in the different dimensional system. If all were converted into cash, it would be 80,000 yuan. In comparison, naturally he wouldn't care too much about the 5,000 points. After shopping, Wang Ling's real life returned to its original appearance, as it should be, and the day passed quickly in boredom. At night, after fully recovering his physical strength, Wang Ling lay on the bed and naturally entered the world of Red Alert again. In terms of time, it was still connected to the time when they left last time. Except for a few members of the Eagle team, including Wang Ling, all of them lay in the same tent and fell asleep slowly. This night was the first time Wang Ling fell asleep in the base. Before going to bed, Wang Ling was even thinking about whether there would be a morning run in the base when he woke up the next day. However, it turns out that he is indeed thinking too much now. This is a battlefield, and fighting may happen at any time. Sometimes it is difficult to sleep peacefully, such as tonight. Originally, Wang Ling was sleeping soundly in the Eagle team's tent, but suddenly in the middle of the night there was a series of gunshots, followed by sirens that resounded throughout the base, followed by the sound of sentry guns and the discharge of magnetic storm coils. It was also spread out in turn. Hearing the sound, Wang Ling was immediately woken up. Before he could react what was going on, he heard shouting from outside, "Enemy attack, enemy attack. The enemy is coming, hurry up and fight, hurry up. Enemy attack." The sirens and shouts also woke up the rest of Team Eagle, who all sat up from the bed with nervous expressions on their faces. Wang Ling gritted his teeth, lifted up the quilt, and shouted, "Stop being stunned, get up quickly and get ready to fight." After hearing the order, Team Eagle immediately got busy, jumping off the bedboard one after another, and hurriedly put on their cloth armor. When training in the barracks, those annoying instructors would often conduct surprise training in the middle of the night, and they would have to get up within half a minute to assemble while they were sleeping. During training, Wang Ling hated this practice, but now, he encountered exactly the situation on the battlefield. As a result, within 20 seconds, the entire Eagle team had put on cloth armor and picked up Babish's submachine guns. He and Wang Ling rushed out of the camp and came to the north entrance of the base where it was being attacked. Now, 3 multifunctional infantry vehicles and 6 Grizzly tanks are attacking this place. They have already destroyed a full-blooded sentry gun and are attacking the magnetic storm coil behind the sentry gun. When Wang Ling and the others rushed here, they happened to see 2 magnetic storm coils releasing electric current at the same time. The blue arc was extremely fast, and the 2 streams hit the same Grizzly tank one after another. The Grizzly tank, which was originally full of health, was stunned. He was blown up directly. At this time, the magnetic storm coil that was attacked had also lost half of its health. If this trend continues, it may be completely demolished soon. Seeing this situation, Wang Ling didn't dare to delay at all, and hurriedly waved his hand. "Brothers, fight me, leave no one behind, blow them all away." The morale of the Eagle squad was now high. After giving the order, the entire team immediately started shooting wildly at the tanks. Not counting Wang Ling, the Eagle squad now has 7 3-star elite soldiers, and Wang Ling has reached the 5-star special forces level. Together, the Eagle squad's firepower is naturally quite powerful. With more than 3 enemy vehicles, the functional infantry vehicle barely lasted 15 seconds before being directly destroyed. At this time, the 2 magnetic storm coils also launched electric current attacks again, and another Grizzly tank was exploded. Coincidentally, at this time, the Bear squad and the Tiger squad also arrived at the scene. Under the orders of their respective captains, they all joined the battle circle. Together with the Eagle squad, they concentrated fire on the remaining 4 Grizzly tanks, leaving dense traces of bullets in the dark night. It's almost mind-numbing to watch. Although the overall strength of these 2 squads is not as good as that of the Eagle squad, they each also have 4 or 5 elite soldiers and a lot of veterans. With the firepower of the Eagle squad, the 4 Grizzly tanks simply cannot. They exploded one after another as long as they persisted. The magnetic storm coil that had been targeted before was now on fire, and the blood bar above its head was already red. Fortunately, the Eagle team arrived in time and was not directly blown up. After sweeping all the tanks, Wang Ling and the others just breathed a sigh of relief, but at this time, Colonel Lovsky's voice came directly from the radio. "There are still enemies, don't let up. Tiger squad, Bear squad, hurry up, go and support the entrance due northwest. Team Eagle, you continue to station yourself due north." Yes. Although he still didn't understand what was going on, Wang Ling still responded together with the other 2 captains. After the Tiger squad and the Bear squad left, Wang Ling quickly checked the electronic map and discovered that there was also a group of tanks attacking at the entrance to the northwest. There were even 3 tank killers mixed in among this group of tanks. After looking to the northwest, Wang Ling turned to the north. After searching on the map for a while, he found that a bunch of blue light spots had gathered not far from the base. After Wang Ling came closer to watch the video, his expression immediately changed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 69. Wang Ling didn't find the pile of blue light spots strange. They were just a large number of Allied soldiers gathering. The total number was about 20. What really scared Wang Ling was a tank slowly approaching behind the group of soldiers. When he got closer, he saw that it was a light prism tank. This kind of tank is a very terrifying existence in the entire Red Alert game. It can launch ultra-long distance laser attacks and is very destructive to buildings and infantry units. Moreover, when attacking infantry and tank units, the laser will also disperse the connection, and even the nearby units of the attacking target will be very damaged. It is simply the ace weapon of the Allied forces to siege cities and plunder territory. When some novices come into contact with the Red Alert game, they like to build more than 10 or even 20 light tanks. With these tanks, even a novice can push forward without encountering some special units. The strength of the 7 ruthless enemy forces is evident. The Prism tank appears. If it is specifically targeted at the infantry units of the Eagle Squadron, under the condition of long-range attack, it is difficult to defeat it even with Wang Ling. Can Wang Ling not be afraid? After observing, Wang Ling lost his composure and shouted almost hysterically, "Where is the Rhino tank? Where is the Rhino tank of the Eagle Squadron? Where did it die? Come here quickly." Although there are Rhino tanks and anti-aircraft tracked vehicles in the Eagle Squadron, they are not at the same station as the infantry. Moreover, these 2 tanks are still patrolling tonight. They are still some distance away from the due north of the base. For a while, they are not at all. Can't make it? At this time, the group of Allied soldiers gathered and finally began to take action. There were many of them, and they were coming with great force. They were so close to the base. Wang Ling had no time to make any further arrangements. He could only shout temporarily, "Brothers, the enemy is coming soon. This will be a fierce battle, but damn it, don't be a coward, I'll beat that bitch up hard." Now, Wang Ling was also a little impatient, and when he yelled, he inadvertently used swear words. After he finished shouting, the Allied soldiers had already arrived within their shooting range. The Eagle squad was not polite, picked up the Babisha submachine gun and fired at them. Not only the Eagle squadron, but the remaining sentry gun and 2 magnetic storm coils also began to attack. The advance was blocked, and the Allied soldiers finally stopped. They quickly deployed and began a rapid counterattack. The overall firepower of this kind of Allied soldiers is much stronger than that of conscripts. The firepower is not too strong when standing, but it is still stronger than ordinary conscripts. After deployment, a heavy machine gun with stronger firepower will be set up, with more firepower, stronger attack power, and longer range. Although there were nearly 10 elite soldiers in the Eagle squad, the 2 sides exchanged fire. At the beginning, the Eagle squad suffered a big loss. Those members who were originally injured were shot dead almost immediately, and the others were also shot one after another. In response, the number of casualties is increasing. Fortunately, there were enough elite soldiers here, and the counterattack was very fierce. Coupled with the counterattack from the defense facilities, the 2 sides were in a stalemate for a while. But not long after the stalemate, the light tank that frightened Wang Ling finally entered the battle circle. It fired a laser attack far outside the range of Wang Ling and the others. The magnetic storm coil, which was already full of blood, immediately it was blown up, and the parts scattered in all directions seemed to make Wang Ling's heart feel cold. That's not all. After destroying a magnetic storm coil, the light tank began to target another magnetic storm coil. Looking at this posture, it was obvious that it wanted to blow up all the defense facilities due north. Damn it, Wang Ling was so anxious that he could only stare, but now he had no choice but to grit his teeth and shoot at the current Allied soldiers fiercely. Without a restrained unit, the light tank seemed to be going crazy. Rays of light came one after another. The other magnetic storm coil was quickly knocked out of half of its health. It was only a matter of time before it was exploded. Buzz buzz. At this time, the Rhino tank that Wang Ling called for finally arrived. Not far behind it, an anti-aircraft crawler vehicle that had reached the 3-star elite level was also approaching quickly. Seeing the 2 of them, Wang Ling was overjoyed and shouted quickly, "Why are you here? Don't be stunned." The tracked vehicles quickly blocked the Allied soldiers together. "Rhino tanks, you immediately ran over these Allied soldiers. Soldier, blow up that cold-armed light tank for me, quickly." The 2 tanks heard the order and immediately took action. The anti-aircraft tracked vehicle was very fast and drove to Wang Ling's side, firing shells one after another. This tracked vehicle loses almost no health when hitting tanks, but it is the natural enemy of infantry. However, it still causes splash damage. All the Allied soldiers hit by it will lose blood in patches and cannot hold on. It didn't take long for them to be killed, which was much faster than Wang Ling shooting himself. The Rhino tank ignored the Allied soldiers' obstruction and rushed over arbitrarily, killing 2 Allied soldiers before it broke through the blockade. Not long after, it encountered the light Prism tank and was hit with a cannon. Go down. When the Prism tank was attacked, it immediately changed its target and started shooting at the Rhino tank, regardless of the magnetic storm coil that was about to explode. The Prism tank is very powerful, but there is no perfect unit in this game, and the Prism tank is no exception. The damage to infantry and buildings is terrifying, but its power against heavily armored tanks is somewhat reduced, and its traveling speed is very slow, and its armor and life are also very fragile. Before upgrading, the speed of firing lasers was also very slow. As a result, he had a fierce battle with a 1-star Rhino tank, and in the end, he only lost a quarter of the Rhino tank's health, and he was completely blown up. At this time, with the addition of anti-aircraft crawler vehicles as assistance in Wang Ling's battle circle, the firepower doubled, and the remaining Allied soldiers were quickly swept away. The enemy attack directly north of the base was finally wiped out. However, the price was not small. One of the 2 magnetic storm coils was destroyed, leaving the other with only half health left. One of the 2 sentry guns was also destroyed, with the other having only half health left. On the other hand, 8 members of the Eagle squad died in this battle, including 2 3-star elite soldiers who had just been promoted tonight. Although casualties are inevitable in war, when Wang Ling suddenly came into contact with this casualty figure, he felt very angry. Grandma, Allied forces, I will remember this hatred. Sooner or later, I will overthrow your entire base, got it? After venting, Wang Ling still didn't relax for the sake of safety and checked the electronic map again. I originally thought that after these 2 consecutive waves of attacks, the Allied forces would have stopped. However, unexpectedly, several blue light spots were still found on the electronic map, approaching the Allied forces base at great speed. When he got closer and saw the enemy's troops, Wang Ling couldn't help but curse, "Your grandma is a bitch, an intruder fighter plane. Are the Allies crazy tonight for attacking so fiercely?" Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 70. Isn't it? The battlefield tonight is really too lively. The bases of the 2 Allied forces are sending troops to attack the Allied base, and there are more than 1 waves. Even the Prism tanks have appeared. And now, there are 4 more invader fighter planes, charging towards them with great force. As an Allied fighter jet, this intruder fighter jet is really fast. Not long after Wang Ling discovered them, the invader fighter jet had already flown across the sky and entered the sky above the Allied forces base. However, the coalition base has been able to persist in fighting the 2 Allied forces alone until now, and it is not a vegetarian. The anti-aircraft guns on the ground came in handy at this time. The long barrels were quickly aimed at the intruder fighter planes. The cannons started firing. But the invader fighter planes ignored it at all, preferring to fight for the ever-decreasing blood volume to penetrate deep into the base. Soon after, they finally found the target, the coalition's ore refinery, and then dropped missiles one after another, hitting accurately, and the refinery would be refined in an instant. More than half of the factory's HP was knocked out, and the originally intact refinery was blown up and set on fire. In doing so, the invader fighter jets also paid a heavy price. As they turned and left, the coalition anti-aircraft guns continued to fire. One after another, 2 of the 4 intruder fighter planes were knocked down and fell to the ground with a loud boom. As for the remaining 2 vehicles, they were about to fly out of the defensive range of the anti-aircraft guns, but at this time, another Wang Ling appeared in the middle of the road. Crawler vehicles, hurry up, block them, and shoot them all down. You can't even put the rack back. The anti-aircraft crawler vehicle heard the order and hurriedly drove to the path of the intruder fighter planes. When the two fighter planes with residual health entered its shooting range, they opened fire immediately. Although the gun barrel of Samsung's anti-aircraft tracked vehicle is not as powerful as the anti-aircraft gun, its role in anti-aircraft power cannot be underestimated. It will fire 2 shells in a row every time, and the firing frequency is extremely high, which is already full of blood. The intruder fighter planes could not withstand such a bombardment, and were finally shot down one after another. 4 fighter planes came with great momentum, but in the end they failed to completely blow up the target, but he explained everything here. There are always many differences between games and reality. For example, the intruder fighter plane may exist as an air combat aircraft that causes headaches and fear to the enemy in reality, but in the red alert world, its role is greatly limited. Intruder fighters without levels will only carry 1 missile. After launching, they must return to the base. After a period of time, the missiles can be replenished before they can continue to perform the mission. There is a saying that after upgrading the level of this kind of invader fighter, it will fire a missile after attacking, but Wang Ling has never seen it for so long. After all, the armor of this kind of invader fighter is too low, and the limit of 1 missile is too fatal. However, it always likes to stare at the enemies or refinery. As a result, it often plays the role of suicide attack. There is no return and it is difficult to level up. As for those fighters that like to bomb tanks, the amount of bombing is really difficult to provide them with upgrade experience. As a result, this kind of siege weapon fell to the computer-controlled allies. In addition to harassment, most of the time it was just consuming the funds for its production out of thin air. With this information flashing through his mind, Wang Ling couldn't help but sigh for a while. After taking a look at the disappearing wreckage of the fighter plane, Wang Ling continued to check it on the electronic map. This time, the map was finally clean. On the way from the Allied base to here, there was no one except mining trucks. Other spots of blue light. As for the northwest of the base, there are already existing defensive buildings. With the support of the Bear Squad and the Tiger Squad, they have almost been wiped out by now. Only 2 Grizzly tanks are still fighting, but they all have residual health. It's only a matter of time before it's blown up. After Wang Ling finished observing the electronic map, he came to his senses and breathed a sigh of relief. Life on the battlefield is really not easy. At this time, the anti-aircraft tracked vehicle that intercepted the intruder fighter jet safely returned to the Eagle team, and the Rhino tank that blocked the Prism tank also arrived shortly after. The anti-aircraft crawler vehicle had already arrived at Samsung when it returned to the base during the day. There was nothing surprising about it. However, when Wang Ling saw the Rhino tank, he was so angry that he couldn't help but laugh. After destroying the Prism tank, the Rhino tank was directly upgraded to the 3-star elite soldier level. He had been busy fighting before and had never noticed it. Now that he saw Wang Ling, he was much more happy. Even the anger of the 8 members of the Eagle team who died in the battle tonight was a little lessened. The firepower of a 3-star Rhino tank is no joke. The rate of fire is greatly increased. It can fire 2 explosive shells at a time. It has almost instant kill power against ordinary infantry units. Even most tanks are very powerful. Few can bear it. Having such a tough guy in the Eagle squad is really an added bonus. Just when Wang Ling was excited, the 2 remaining Rhino tanks in the northwest of the base were finally destroyed one after another. Tonight, this menacing enemy attack has finally been completely wiped out. For Wang Ling, this battle was somewhat tragic, but in fact, the coalition base had long been accustomed to this situation. Instead of becoming chaotic, a large number of engineers were mobilized to seize the time to repair all damaged buildings. In addition, they also magnetic storm coils and sentry guns were rebuilt overnight in the two exit directions. As long as there are sufficient funds in the base, this kind of loss is not actually that big. Wang Ling felt a little bored after watching here for a short time. After fighting for so long tonight, he was also a little tired. He waved his hand and wanted to take the Eagle team back to the camp to continue resting. But at this time, at the entrance of the base they had just guarded, another mobilization soldier actually walked in. After looking around, he ignored the eyes of other personnel and walked straight towards the tank factory. It was quite a surprise. A sneaky feeling. Others didn't find it strange. After all, this man was dressed as a soldier. No matter how weird he was still one of his own. But Wang Ling frowned, feeling that something was wrong. He quickly checked the electronic map and found a blue light spot running quickly from here to the direction of the Allied forces base. Taking a closer look, it turned out to be a multi-purpose infantry vehicle. Seeing this scene, Wang Ling snorted coldly and shouted to the mobilized soldier, "Hey, man, stop." After hearing this, the mobilized soldier visibly trembled, as if he was startled, but then he calmed down and turned to look at Wang Ling. "What's wrong?" Wang Ling didn't answer. Instead, he walked over expressionlessly. After he got close, he punched the mobilizer with a punch, knocking off the gas mask of the mobilization soldier completely. The mobilization soldier was also knocked over and fell to the ground. It rolled on the ground 3 times before stopping.